All right, welcome back to another episode of Nostalgia Street, where we share the stories that shape us. I'm laughing because Vince heard me say things I didn't say, and we'll just leave it at that.
Nostalgia Street is filmed live at Forefront Studios, where we have a great time all the time.
Agreed. So our special guest today is Kristy. We're going to find out much, much more about her in today's episode. But with that, I will throw it over to my esteemed partner for the question of the day.
So the question of the day comes from our wonderful questionnaire that Kristy filled out, but she does not remember filling out. So we're going to take advantage of that. Kristy, it says here that you are a big fan of the 2000s hit band NSYNC. So let's imagine now that they are back together on tour, but they have to be, they're missing one person. Who would you kick off the band and who would you replace them with?
Ooh, that's a good
2024.
question. Okay, I want to preface it by saying that I've had this discussion with my husband that if NSYNC toured again, I would pay any amount of money to go see them. But if one person was missing, like Justin Timberlake, I would not pay any amount of money to go see them. So he has to stay. I would probably kick off Chris Kirkpatrick. I was never, he was never in my top, like my poster power ranking in my bedroom of NSYNC members.
Took a black magic marker.
First husband, second husband.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He didn't make the list.
Last.
So I'd probably kick him off. And who would I replace him with?
Because this is an NSYNC Plus.
Yeah, I mean, this is like my mega NSYNC. I would say,
Biebs?
Can I replace him with Taylor Swift?
I don't know if that's NSYNC. You could.
I mean,
why not?
There's no reason they couldn't rebrand and
yeah, different sound altogether.
Yeah, totally. Probably better songwriting.
Tortured Boy Bands Department.
Tortured Boy Bands Department.
I'd see that. I'd pay for that ticket.
Nostalgia Street invites you on a retro ride that's more than just a trip down memory lane,
Uncover life lessons and personal growth stories that stem from our collective past.
so you can live a richer, more connected life today.
Whether you're a 90s kid, an 80s teen, or simply young at heart, you'll find something to relate to in each episode.
Now, here are your hosts, Vince and Jeff. All right, well, our guest today is Kristy Laue. L-A-U-E.
Like Maui.
Yeah,
Laue rhymes with
Laue,
Maui.
yeah.
And she's the creative director at Lawrence and Schiller. And we'll talk much more about that at the latter portion of our episode. So let's start with, where did young Kristy grow up?
I grew up in Jamestown, North Dakota. So about 5 hours from Sioux Falls, a town of maybe like 14,000 people.
Okay.
And my parents are farmers, so I grew up on a farm like a lot of upper Midwestern kids.
Yeah.
Spent my days kind of untethered on our farm, like with very little adult supervision, which was great.
So sometimes untethered leads to unhinged, which leads to trouble.
Which leads to unemployed.
Yeah.
Untethered. That's a great word. She's so creative. I can see this already.
Thanks.
It's a great word. So do you have any brothers or sisters?
I do. I have an older brother, an older sister, and then a younger brother, too. We're all kind of 4 years apart, so a nice age spread.
So who framed the other children the most in your family for doing wrong deeds?
We were all pretty good kids. I think my little brother is probably the one who got away with the most. Classic baby of the family.
Yeah.
Like kid number 4, by the time my parents got to him, they just I don't want to say
Gave
they
up.
didn't care, but it was like, it was a lot looser.
You guys watch them.
Yeah.
So if he was the plotter, what were the other roles that you would assign your siblings?
I was definitely the achiever. Lower middle child is always the one who's like trying to get attention through all their good deeds. My older brother, he is very pragmatic. He's an engineer now. So I think he was always just the very sensible one, hardworking, pretty straight-laced kid. And then my sister was kind of more the athlete, I think. She was in basketball. She did more sports, a little more outgoing. But I don't think anyone was really wildly rebellious or, we were all pretty good.
Nobody sneaking out at night.
I think my sister totally snuck out at night 1 or 2 times. I caught her one time because we shared a room, but
Did you use that as leverage?
yeah. I also knew where she hid her alcohol as a teenager in our room. I found that at when I definitely should have. I was the annoying little sister. That was the role I played.
So what kind of farming did your parents do?
So they farm mostly grain, like wheat, corn, beans. For little spell during my childhood, they raised bison too, actually.
Oh,
So I think it was just
true North Dakotans.
it was my dad's like business venture when he saw like bison was kind of getting popular, like
Yeah.
for lean, healthy meat. So he did that for a little while, but I think kind of got out of it at a good time. Like
Started smelling a little bit too
Silly
much.
question.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between buffalo and bison?
I think
they
it's the same
interchangeable?
thing.
That's a great question. We should look that up.
Yeah.
All right, you keep going. I'm going to look that up.
Oh, you're gonna look it up. You're usually honestly gonna look it up.
Oh, shoot. I thought my phone was over here.
If only we had an
Dang it.
assistant who could just look it up. Right?
Ethan. Yeah, buffalo and bison. Yeah, there has to be some kind of a difference.
Because that's very North Dakota over there. Like, NDSU. We're gonna do some bison too. And
That's true. My dad was a bison. He went to NDSU, and so did my brother. So
See,
maybe
I like
that's
the way
why.
that she says bison, not bison.
Bison.
It sounds more
Bison.
legit when you say it like that, bison.
sounds
you
very
say-
like elevated.
So what you say when you go to work, bison. Bye, Mom. Will you come back, please?
There is a joke. This is like what did the daddy buffalo say to the baby buffalo? Bison.
Oh, okay. For the record,
That's a dad joke.
yeah, that is. For the record, I just made that up on my own. I swear to God I did. That's a dad joke.
Well, on today's episode of Nostalgia Street Comedy Hour.
Yeah. Sponsored by North Dakota Bison. So, growing up on a farm, Jamestown, what kind of music were you inclined to listen to? A lot of country or?
You know, I definitely have a lot of like nostalgic memories around 90s country because my parents listened to it. And like in our shop where I like rode my bike and hung out all summer as a kid, like that's what was playing, like Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, George Strait. But that's not really what I listened to. Like I was more of a pop kid,
Yeah.
like radio pop,
So what
boy
influenced
bands,
you?
obviously, which we've talked about.
What influenced you away from the goods of country and the evils of pop and rock and roll?
The devil's music.
The devil's music, exactly.
I don't know. Maybe it was just like less of one pushing me toward the other and more of like a balance of both.
Yeah.
Like I think I have pretty eclectic music taste now too. I still don't listen to a lot of country music or really any, but I have an appreciation for it.
Sure.
Especially like stuff that's more like bluegrass or like, like a Chris Stapleton. Have an appreciation even though I don't really listen to it. So I don't know, maybe more balance. I still went to Garth Brooks when he was at the Premier Center and cried. I mean,
Yeah?
it's still
All 6 times.
I just once. But yeah, I mean, there's still like I don't know. Garth Brooks is just a special performer.
Yeah, yeah. He's well known
So
for
you
that.
said you rode your bike around. Were you part of like any neighborhood bike gangs? Riding the bicycles and causing mischief?
Not really.
cheap.
Being on a farm, I was kind of a gang of one or gang with my siblings. I had a gang of feral farm cats that I hung out with. And maybe that's why I kind of like developed an introverted personality. Like I was used to playing on my own a lot as a kid, for sure.
Her favorite show is Game of Thrones.
One.
You got something else?
I was just say, let's talk about feral farm cats. Did they have names? Like, did they have roles?
Totally had names. You name every farm cat, even if you can't pet it.
Favorite one?
Georgie, my cat Georgie. I probably got her when I was 9. Okay, so this is a sad story. We had a bunch of orange farm cats. My older brother, who I just said was like the straight-laced one, actually did a bad thing. He and his friend were out like shooting BB guns and stuff.
Uh-oh.
They shot our cats. Like his friend shot our cats.
Whoa.
My sister saw it. It was traumatizing. They got in so much trouble. So anyway, when I was like 9, my brother took me to get a new cat, and that was Georgie. And Georgie was like my main cat, and she probably lived to like, I don't know, 15, 16, which for a farm cat is impressive. Like she
Yeah.
had the split ears,
Yeah.
and like she was grizzled.
Well, you know what? Cheers to Georgie.
Yeah,
Cheers.
pour
Cheers
one
to
out for
Georgie.
Georgie
Pour
for
one
sure.
Did she have like a little bulletproof vest in case your brother decided to go back to his criminal ways?
I don't think he
Criminal
would.
ways.
I don't think he would ever do that again. My parents were pissed. Yeah, it was bad kid.
Did you ever do anything to animals? I mean, they say that if you do things to animals when you're younger, that means you're going to be a psychopath.
I'm a well-adjusted human being, Jeff.
You
I would
liar.
never
You
do
did
that.
something.
I don't like animals. I don't like animals that
You
much.
don't like animals?
Not much of an
In
animal.
general?
I'm just not an animal person.
Wow.
I mean, I like whales, but you can't go out and hug a whale.
Not going to keep one at home.
Don't you have one on your shirt?
Yeah.
Save the whale. No, you never blow up like little baby frogs with firecrackers or anything
Who
like
would
that?
do that?
My neighbor.
Ooh,
I didn't do it. I swear to God, I just watched.
No, we didn't do any of that kind of stuff.
All right, well, let's get away from killing animals. And
Yeah, we don't want
get back-
PETA to censor this
This is-
episode.
this is-
That's
a dark
probably true.
path.
So, how big was your school growing up?
Gosh, my graduating class was probably like 200 to 300, 300-ish.
Not
280
bad.
maybe.
So did you stay
Yeah.
in Jamestown the whole duration?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So that's a pretty well-adjusted life, right? Between people who move around a lot, that's kind of tough on a kid. But to stay in that same area, you kind of know. By the time you're dating, you kind of know which guys are up to no good and which ones are maybe worth a shot, right?
Sure. I'm curious where you're going with this question.
Oh no, I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I had it was a very well-adjusted childhood, and I had a good core group of friends. Like, I feel like I had a very rare thing in my teenage years where my group of friends, like, nobody drank.
Yeah.
Nobody did anything, like unsavory from a legal point of view.
Yeah.
They were like a really good core group of kids, and it was like boys and girls. It was like just a nice, like, I don't know, a cool little gang of people to hang out
Were
with.
these band camp kids by chance?
I was in band.
Oh, what happens at band camp?
Not all of them were band camp kids, so no.
No, okay.
So being in that small town, what were the urban legends or myths or, that's the house you never go to or Old Man Foster's going to come out.
Old Man Foster.
Always comes up.
There was a man who was called Merry Christmas, who he was kind of like Glenn the Can Man from Brookings, if you're familiar with Brookings lore of Glenn the Can Man.
We'll ask John that.
We gotta, yeah.
We gotta ask John.
You should. But yeah, he had like a shopping cart full of cans, and his name was, I don't know if his name was actually Merry Christmas, but people called him Merry Christmas. And it was always like rumored that he was actually very rich. But I don't know that anyone knew him or knew of him.
Yeah.
You kind of just saw him around town a lot. trying to think of other lore.
Because here we have Bikini Lady, we have
Yeah.
the cowboy guy who just is in cowboy gear all time.
I haven't seen Cowboy Guy.
He's like
Yeah,
the
there's some-
African American cowboy. He's always like dressed in
Long
full
black
cowboy
coat.
attire.
Hat.
The guy in 41st who plays guitar and flips
the
people off.
scream singer guy on
Yep.
41st in
Oh.
Minnesota. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
that-
been out a lot lately.
How long has he been around? Because I only became aware of him face to face like 3 weeks ago. Has he been around longer than that?
It's been at least 2 years that I've
I feel like
seen
I've
him.
missed out so much.
Yeah, and he just flips you off. I don't know why.
I'm gonna take Ethan to visit him later.
Yeah, we should. Let's do it. Yeah, we were coming out of Staples, remember? And somebody was yelling something. We're like, what is it? And then there he is over there by Ace Hardware on that corner.
Yep.
So Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I would like to think my graduating class has entered into Jamestown, North Dakota lore as well. So for our senior prank, Jamestown is the buffalo city. And so there's a giant buffalo. It's the world's largest buffalo. He's fiberglass. His name is Dakota Thunder. You can see him from the interstate. But he's like our tourist attraction. And so for our senior class prank, we did Operation Snuff the Buff.
Snuff the.
And we draped a sheet over the side of the buffalo that said class of 2002. And like the whole city could see it because he's like up on a hill and the city's in a valley. So I feel like that was the greatest senior class prank.
Did you do a senior
Ever.
prank?
There were a few. I grew up in Columbia, right between St. Louis and Kansas City. We had 1,800 kids in our entire high school, about 500 in my class. And the seniors, the cool kids that is, we all had alarm clocks, wind-up alarm clocks that we put in our lockers, and they all went off at the same time.
Ooh, nice.
So it was funny because we're all sitting in class and we hear this major loud clatter, and the janitor and the principal started unlocking everybody's lockers one by one and taking them out. Of course, I mean, the wind-up clock can only go so far, but they decided it would be best if they confiscated our alarm clocks. That was one of them. This was a graduation. My locker partner from the 7th grade was the first one to do this. His name was Michael Bonin. So it didn't get into him, but a lot of us had rocks. So when you went to shake the principal's hand as they gave you the diploma, we had a rock in our hand. Well, he didn't want to break decorum, so he'd shake his hand and he would grab the rock and put it in his pocket. And so we were waiting for the first person to do it to see if he would just like drop it or what. But Michael went to shake his hand. He grabbed it, looked at it kind of funny, and put it in his pocket. And half the audience and the parents knew, a few of them knew, so they're laughing. And it just happened and happened. And halfway through graduation, they stopped it, and somebody came out with a cardboard box, and he emptied out his pockets, and then they went through it again, and everybody just started laughing as his pockets just got bigger and bigger.
That's awesome. That's a good prank. The
pretty
alarm
fun.
clocks is good too. It's clever.
Yeah. I don't know who came up with it. I didn't, but I thought it was pretty good.
We threw a bunch of so we had a 2-story foyer. So on the second floor, all the seniors, we had a bunch of bouncy balls, and we decided right during the lunch break, we throw all our bouncy balls down there and pelt the underclassmen, and it would cause chaos. And 100 kids throwing 2 or 3 bouncy balls apiece.
All right, you go with another question because I am dying to know the difference between buffalo and bison. Because you
Oh
brought
my
up,
gosh, you can't. Yeah.
All right, so question we were starting to ask everybody is it tater tot hot dish or casserole?
Hot dish.
Hot dish. So
Yes.
that's 2 hot dishes, 1 casserole, and we will bring Alyssa Matt on here someday so that she
Yeah.
can give her spiel on that. Because
Yeah.
we all know about, I believe Jeff is so invested in this bison versus buffalo.
Maybe there's a hot buffalo dish.
Hot buffalo, hot dish. Yeah.
Can find us out. So what was high school like besides these pranks that you played? Did you
Is there a
have
trend?
High school was great. I had a really lovely time in high school. Trend wise, I mean, it's funny now. I see a lot of stuff on Instagram of like my generation resurrecting things like the day planners that we used to
The
have.
gel
like
pens?
gel pens. You remember those like millennial? I think it said millennial on the cover because it was like circa 2000, but it was like a day planner and everyone would fold the pages over diagonally when you finished the week.
Yes,
Remember
I remember that. And you had to get it. Well, at our school, we had to get it signed every day.
I found our
Did you
answer.
find it?
I
What is
did.
the answer?
According to Illinois.gov, like they would know,
The most corrupt state
The
in the
authority.
union.
bison have a massive head, but buffalo have a head that is smaller and more cow-like. Buffalo live in generally warmer climates than bison. And then another one says the animal that most Americans call a buffalo is actually a bison. Buffaloes are found in Africa and South Asia, while bison roam in North and South America. But they're interchangeable. Another one says there's no difference between an American bison and an American buffalo. So
Kind of undoing everything you just said.
I know,
So
right?
I
3 different
kind of
times.
feel like
the
the
size of the
branding-
head. All right, keep going on.
Kevin, even to this buffalo. The
It's gotta
episode.
be. It's such a great question.
Okay.
Here, according to Britannica.com, you can tell the difference if you focus on the 3 H's: home, hump, and horns. So apparently they have different homes and humps and horns. So we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
So earlier you said millennial because turn of the century. I want to unpack a little bit that pre-2000 hysteria. That
Y2K.
yes,
I do remember that so well.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah. The world was going to end because the computers couldn't switch over to 2000.
Yeah, I know. That's bizarre. And then either they fixed it or it was not that big of a
I
deal.
just remember going to stores and like things were there were literally labels like at Best Buy that said Y2K safe or Y2K like protected.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, like all of our digital systems were going to fail. Like your bank account, any like credit payment online, like POS systems, like everything was going to fail. I feel like they thought they had a fix for it, but no one knew if it was actually going to work or not until New Year's Eve, which just seems ridiculous. Like it was like a wait and see. And yay, it was okay.
The world's not
For
over.
nothing. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all for nothing.
I know. We had like a kind of a teen hang space in Jamestown called the Bunker, which was like an old golf clubhouse, but they converted it to like a youth center, and that's where like dances and stuff were. And I remember we had a huge school dance the night of Y2K.
In the bunker.
Yeah, in the bunker, and
Just in
everyone
case.
was worried that the world was gonna fall, apart, but it didn't. It was great.
Sounds like the beginning of like a movie. Like, let's put all the teenagers in a bunker. If the world ends, they're our best bet.
Yeah, like there's that show 100. Yeah, put a
Yeah.
bunch of teenagers in, and they can repropagate if the
Yeah.
world ends.
We had a collection of seeds with us and whatever else we would need to repopulate the world.
10-year supply of canned goods.
Uh-huh.
And enough bison meat. I mean, buffalo meat to last forever.
A lot of surge.
Oh gosh, Surge, Tab, Zima.
Oh, Zima, yeah.
Zima.
Yeah.
Which was, what was Zima?
I don't even know what Zima is.
I think
just
it's
remember,
what White Claw is now.
I think you're right.
Just-
It's a precursor.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it tastes like. I know I had
I just
a
remember
few.
the bottle. I've seen the bottle because technically I couldn't have it, but
Yeah.
The bottle.
People would put Jolly Ranchers in Zima, and then
Yeah.
that's how you would flavor it, like
That's
different
true.
fruit flavors.
Ah, the good old days. So when you do look back, like, do you go back to Jamestown?
I do. My parents still live there. So, yeah, I probably go back a couple times a year.
What are some of the thoughts that go back through your head when you, either as you're driving there or you get there, as far as like just the scope and the size and just random memories? What comes to mind when you go back?
Yeah. My parents still live on the same farm. So, I mean, there's definitely like a lot of just childhood memories. I love that they still live there.
Yeah.
The house is different. They've remodeled and things. But I mean, like, that's still just, it's home.
Yeah.
And it would be weird if they moved and it didn't feel like home anymore. But it's interesting, like my high school since was torn down. Like it was pretty old when we were there. So like there's a brand new high school. I have no ties to, like, my nieces and nephews go to school there, and I've never even been in the high school. Ours is just gone. So that's
Yeah.
kind of weird too. Like
Yeah.
it would be great to go back in the halls and walk through, because I don't remember a lot from growing up anymore. You know, like those memories fade so quickly. It's surprising, but I feel like being in a physical place triggers that really easily. Like,
Yeah.
like my family farm or like my high school, and I can't go back there now, which is sad.
It is.
what was the prophecy, if you had one, written about you in your yearbook? You know how it's like Jeff is most likely to be president, Vince is most likely to whatever, you know?
I don't think we had those, but I was on the yearbook committee. So I think if that's a prophecy, that makes sense that I'm now in marketing and
Oh,
turned out
totally.
to be a writer. And yeah, I don't think we had those like superlatives, the most likely to this, most likely to that. Mm-mm.
Do you remember anything that sticks out that people wrote in your yearbook?
Beyond stay cool.
Yeah.
Never
Yeah.
change.
Never change, stay
Never
cool.
change.
So fun hanging out. People wrote a lot of stuff about, so a lot of kids I went to school with stayed in North Dakota. And I think I was one of 2 kids who actually came to college in South Dakota. So I remember being proud of that in the day, that like I didn't just go to like kind of the traditional route or like the
Yeah.
expected route. So there was a lot of keep in touch, a lot of, you know, we'll come visit. I was in a lot of music, so a lot of stuff around like music, like keep singing.
Yeah. So I've got the best one
Yeah.
because it was in my yearbook. This guy named Terry, I didn't even know him that well, but he's like, hey, dude, can I sign your yearbook? Sure. You don't read this stuff until you get home or whatever. And my mom found this really weird interest in reading through I had a twin sister. So she's reading through her thing, and she gets to mine and she goes, Jeffrey Pickett, get in here. What does this mean? And I'm like, what? And she goes, who's Terry? And I'm like, it's a guy. Why? Are you sure it's not a girl? Yeah, why? So I look at it. He put in there, stay cool, stay sweet, have a great summer, but don't play with your meat. So my mom thinks it's, I guess, Terry's a girl. I'm like, I just played stupid. What's that mean, Mom? Of course, she didn't say anything, of course, but oh my God.
He should have put a heart in there too. Just to,
You think Terry wrote that in everyone's yearbook?
Oh,
Terry
I
just
think he
being
probably
Terry?
did.
Terry's just a type
a
of
Terry
chaotic,
thing.
like you need.
Yeah, that's a Terry thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, so when you were kind of towards the end of college, did you know high school, did you know where you wanted to go to college?
I knew I wanted to go out of state. I originally had aspirations of going way out of state, and then like that was kind of dialed back quickly for budget reasons and also for reasons of like, do I really want to go that far away? Like, no, it's nice to be within driving distance. But I was immediately drawn to South Dakota. I knew I kind of wanted to go to SDSU or USD.
Yeah.
I ended up stopping in Brookings first because it was closer on I-90.
Yeah.
And so I toured SDSU first and liked it so much I never went to USD for a tour.
All
So
right, shots fired.
Cool. 'Cause she would have made it to Vermilion and been like, wow, there's 2 streets here. What else is there?
right, what did I miss? I don't
Pretty
know.
quiet. So the blue and yellow, is it blue and gold?
I think actually what growing up, like in college, we had a song called Yellow and Blue. So
Okay.
I think it's yellow, but
And was it always Jackrabbits? Mm-hmm. Always.
yeah. Yeah.
So what was that first year of college like as you adjusted from a small town in North Dakota to a small town in South Dakota?
Right? It's just completely different. It was great. What's nice is SDSU is a big enough school that it doesn't feel like a small town. Like SDSU is a small town in itself. And there's a lot of kids there who come from, towns of 1,000 people, where that's like the most people you've ever been exposed to, and they're all in your own age group. It's great. So it was a lot of fun. I remember though, like definitely feeling like, so I was in band in high school, kind of maybe nerdier thing to do, although our band was great. I was proud to be in it. So I was in the Pride of the Dakotas at SDSU, and it was totally different. Like the band kids were crazy. They partied all the time. Like I remember going to crazy basement parties where guys were wearing kilts and whatever, and the band's like 400 people.
From bunkers to basements.
Right? So it was a lot of fun. Definitely met a lot of friends, had my eyes open to a lot of, different classes and stuff that also kind of changed my career path.
Yeah.
I went to school thinking I wanted to be a journalist and work at a newspaper, and after a job shadow, that also quickly changed. So it was great.
So what was your major?
It started out in, I was journalism, like news editorial journalism.
Okay.
And then I was probably a sophomore in college, and I pivoted to also within the School of Journalism, you can specialize in advertising. And I had a great advisor who I was talking to about, not really wanting to do the news ed thing anymore. And she said, well, you can write in advertising, and you're really creative. And if you're finding that, inverted pyramid structure and everything about news writing is a little too like hemmed in for you, you can do this as in advertising, like at an agency, at an in-house marketing department. And so she kind of opened my eyes to the job of being a copywriter, and that's what I ended up doing. So
Nice.
yeah.
So either prior to or since then, what movies or TV shows that have to do with advertising have you used as inspiration or have fond memories of?
That's a great question. I was a huge fan of Mad Men when it was out, and I
Love it.
although it's very antiquated for today's industry,
Yeah.
a lot of it is still really spot on about like the creative process, and there's really good lessons about like how to pitch work and tell stories that are still super relevant, even though that was set in the 60s. So Mad Men was awesome. I think a lot of stuff in my advertising career too, like just little things I've come up with for campaigns or TV spots were also taken from my life, which I think is a good best practice in marketing. Like tell human stories, and sometimes that might be your own story that actually happened. When I worked on Taco John's, we had a TV spot for breakfast burritos, and it was like a mom bringing burritos out to her husband in the field, and they ate the burritos in the bed of a pickup truck. And that's because my family did that. Like my mom would bring dinner out to my dad and the other people who were combining, and we would eat together in the bed of the pickup truck. And so little things like that you can take from your real life, I think always make better stories.
Yeah.
What was the most surprising assignment or thing that you ever had to write on, whether that's in collegiate career or professional? Or
It's a good question. I think one of the coolest things, and it was a little surprising for the timing too, was working with Sanford. They had an award called the Lorraine Cross Award that was $1 million. They awarded every 2 years to a researcher or a doctor or someone who was like pioneering these crazy medical innovations. And the year of COVID, one of the nominees was like a foremost authority in COVID. So we got to go talk to him in like August of 2020. I mean, it was like peak COVID. We had full PPE on. Like no one was allowed in the hospital
Hazmat
he
suits.
worked in.
Yeah.
He had just been interviewed by like CNN. I mean, it was a surreal moment and a really cool moment of like, wow, I have a job that is letting me do this right now, and a client who's letting me do this. Like nobody gets to speak to this guy about coronavirus, and now I do.
Yeah.
Am I equipped to do this? But it was wild.
So in the college days, younger, We tend to be a little bit more open to ideas usually. Were there any beginnings of like a creative process, whether you learned through college or that you just started to develop on your own when you were putting together copy?
I think I'm more of a visual learner, which is something I learned through college, and more of a tactile writer. So like, yes, I have to sit at a computer all day for work, and a lot of us do, but I think I still like go back to pen and paper a lot.
Yes. Love it.
And yeah, that was something definitely in college that I did, and I still do now. Like you kind of just need a break, and it's more free form, and I don't know. I just think better that way.
So I love that you said that, because there's nothing that will make me happier than if I have a fountain pen and a Moleskine at a coffee shop, and I can walk in there and I don't have an idea in my head, but as I just kind of free form, and I'm forced to write slower with a fountain pen than a ballpoint pen, things start to evolve and they start to come out. I'm like, okay, I like this. So that's usually kind of a go-to that I've used in the past for coming up with ideas.
The coffee shop environment is magical too. I don't know what it is about like the din of coffee shop noise, but that's probably a college thing too, like working in a student union, like sitting down and doing your homework there, or even in a library. Like there's something about those communal. I'm a bookish person too, so I just like libraries. And something about that like space is really, I don't know, just like grounding to me. I think well in it.
I don't recall the gentleman's name. I guess I could look it up since I looked up the old bison deal. But I think the book, well, he developed, I think, what he called the Eureka method, which I forget what it is. But one of the things that he talked about was giving yourself stimulus or things that might take you back to your childhood. And so one of the things I used to do when I was at a former company, anytime we would have new people come in, and I always had to train them on marketing, I gave them a small container of Play-Doh, and I would have them all open it up, and I would say, I want you to open it up, play with it. Now, write down the first word that comes to mind. And 90% of the time, people would say smell or childhood. From that moment that you're playing with things like that and you go back to your childhood, I would keep Play-Doh handy for a long time if I was stuck on something, because then it would make me think like I'm a child, and where more things are possible, and then that's where a lot of really fun ideas would come from. But this book, I wish I could find it, remember this, but he talked a lot about giving yourself stimulus in a totally different area. And maybe that's why coffee shops, like you'll hear somebody say something or whatever. If you're in a stale room, there might be the sound of the HVAC system or whatever, but you're in a coffee shop, you hear the sounds and the brining, you hear somebody, ragging on their girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. You're like, oh, there's an idea. So I think it's just, I like that stimulus, but for sure, writing on paper, it's a big thing for me.
Libraries are totally that kind of childhood stimulus for me too. I like libraries because I like books, but they have a tie to my childhood too. There was a time in middle school where like I would get out of school, I didn't have an activity or anything. My mom couldn't pick me up till 5 or 5:30, and our public library was across the street from the school, and I would go to the library every day after school. Sometimes I do my homework, but a lot of the times I would read, and they had a big clawfoot bathtub filled with pillows. And I would sit in that tub and read.
That sounds so cool, that being a library.
Oh, and it's my dream to have that in my home someday. Yeah. Like not even a clawfoot tub I bathe in, but one I can just fill with pillows and read in with my kids. Yeah.
I love that.
So it was just it's super tied to those teen years. And then now I write for a living. I like to read. I like libraries. They just bring me back there.
We'll be right back. So now that you're at LNS, so you've been there, you said, for 17 years off and on?
Yep. Off and on makes it sound like we're in a toxic relationship. Just one off and on, but yeah.
A brief break.
Yep. A sabbatical is what I call it.
So as you are directing this creative, what do you think makes an idea better than another?
It can vary depending on the situation, like the client, the audience, what the goal is. Sometimes what makes one idea good for one client might not work for a different client. So that's not a great answer because I'm basically not answering it. I think too, the other thing is like being able to be human, kind of like we talked about before, like being able to tell a human story that's actually going to mean something to someone, I think is always going to make a bigger impact and be better work than something that feels artificial or fabricated or like an ad.
So whether LNS did this or somebody else, what do you think are some of the best ads or campaigns that you've seen that you're like, God, I wish we would have done that, or we did it?
I see a lot of great stuff that I wish we would have done. A lot of like bigger brand stuff. I would say Google. I think Google just like, especially with their TV and video, like if they have Super Bowl ads, they're using search trends and telling a really human story through it, which I think is awesome because that would be a huge challenge.
Sure.
Like,
Is that even fair though? Because they control the search terms. They control the engine with which you search. They have all the datas in the world.
it's true. So they can pull really great
So
stories
they
from
should.
it.
They should be able to do that.
Yeah, they have all the resources at their fingertips, which of course is like as a marketer you envy. But I think they do a really nice job, especially in their video work. I also am a huge fan of Liquid Death Mountain Water.
Yes.
You guys drink Liquid Death?
Fantastic.
Do you follow them?
Yes.
They are so disruptive, and I love it. Like they are just unafraid to do anything or offend anyone. Because they're trying to disrupt the water categories. Their whole like brand is built off of being like this rebel and anti-hero. And I think their vice president of creative is just genius. I've listened to a few talks he's done and how he talks about their brand being a character.
Yeah.
And if you think of it that way, like they're free to do whatever the hell they want. And it's so great.
And it speaks to your heavy alt rock emo phase.
Yeah. I did go through an emo phase. I'm still in an emo phase. Yeah.
Millennials haven't left it.
No, never.
So on the flip side, then, what are some brands out there with the disclaimer you'll get sued by saying this? But what are some brands out there that you're like, man, they really should step it up, or that was really bad?
It's a great question. I always think food brands could do way more because food is fun. Like if it's fast food or like a soda, like sometimes they play it very safe because they have like mass appeal, very corporate, many layers. But I think you could do a lot of fun stuff with like a restaurant or a beverage that maybe they don't always take the most advantage of as they could.
Yeah. Everyone can be like the Wendy's Twitter account.
Yeah, Wendy's Twitter is fantastic. Arby's has done like fun stuff. Like I appreciate Arby's marketing a lot. They're great. They're really clever.
Yeah, Wendy's Twitter. We could talk all day about that if we had a phone in front of us.
It successfully changed my opinion of Wendy's. Like, I think of Wendy as a sassy, like, just in your face.
Super sassy to Ronald, for sure.
Isn't that funny, though? Like, one Twitter account changed your whole perception of Wendy's.
Yeah.
Marketing works, man.
Real good example of that is, so you look over there, we have a kegerator in our office. We have a sign that has a custom beer on it. It says Forefront Formula. Last year we had an event at Severance Brewing, and Scott was kind enough to make us a custom beer, and then he gave us a sign afterwards. So we had our ribbon cutting a couple weeks ago, and people were coming up to us saying, wow, guys, this is really good beer. It's like really good beer. And we're like, oh, really? Tell us more about it. Like, oh, I've never had a beer like this. It's crisp, it's fresh. And then I would tell them, would it break your heart to tell you that's just Coors Light in there? Like, no, it's not Coors Light. We have people like Joe Batchelor and other folks who are like, this is really good beer. And I'm like, nope. So proof that marketing works.
That's awesome.
It's so true. It's so true. And I've seen like for vodka, you've got your really high-end vodkas, and Crystal Skull, I think, is the brand that Dan Aykroyd has, where it literally comes in a crystal skull. So they had all these vodka experts come in, and they gave them 4 brands and said, tell us which one is which. And they all had their opinions on everything, and every single vodka bottle actually had the Phillips vodka, the Rail vodka. That's and I mean, if you look at the reading on it, everyone says they're either triple or quadruple filtered over something, but at the end of the day, all pretty much taste the same.
It's vodka. Yeah. Well, we were just talking about Liquid Death Mountain Water. It's water.
Yeah.
It's like the most vanilla product available anywhere, any brand, but they've managed to turn it into something more than that.
So where do you see yourself in the next 5-10 years, Donna Draper?
Or Peggy. I'm really happy at LNS. We're doing good work. I get to manage an awesome team there. So I see myself there. right now we're kind of going through a succession plan for ownership at LNS too. And so I'm lucky to be part of the future team that gets to manage the agency and talk with Scott Lawrence about taking it over. So that's going to be the big, like, scary, audacious, crazy thing is like to go from working in a company to managing and owning a company. This is a big step.
So it still stays LNS.
But it might be LLNS now.
LLNS.
Yeah.
There's a few of us. We'd have to add a lot of letters, and that just might be a branding problem.
Well, I feel like you got the team equipped to tackle that.
Yeah, that's true.
So this is where Vince usually gives you one last chance.
Well, I want to quick ask if there's any more nostalgic stories you want to share with us, because knowing that you're a band kid and that band, what happens at band camp usually stays at band camp until they're asked about it on a podcast.
He has a fetish about this.
No, it's just fun to hear.
Well, I'm a band kid, but I was also a choir kid.
Yeah, show choir kid. I saw that.
Yes, I was in
too.
show choir, vocal jazz, concert choir, all of it. And we had some like band campy stuff. It wasn't like a sleepaway camp. It was like we would do like the field drills with the formations and marching band. And so that was always like kind of in the hottest possible days of summer, but like really fun memories around that. But for choir, I actually did get to go to International Music Camp, which is on the border between North Dakota and Canada in the Peace Gardens.
Okay.
So I went to International Music Camp for choir, and that was an awesome time. I think, like, I'm trying to think of any crazy stories from music camp. I just remember we had to clean the bathrooms.
Whoa.
And I was surprised that I didn't know, like, at sleepaway camps, you got chores. You had to, like, we were on a cleaning rotation. Like, you're up with the sun mopping the bathroom at music camp.
Those Canadians.
Right?
I know. Damn Canadians.
They taught us the value of hard work along with, like, harmony and jazz hands.
Yeah. I can't play the flute, Mr. Jenkins. My fingers are pruny. I can't clean bathrooms tomorrow. It's not fair.
Yeah. Music camp, all around good time.
Do you still have music in your life?
I do, not like in a formal or organized sort of way. But I sing a lot at home to my kids, whether they like it or not. I listen to a lot of music.
I like it or not.
My husband is a drummer, so I met him in band at SDSU.
Scandalous.
Yes.
Scandalous indeed.
So, we have some instruments at home. We got a guitar, we've got drums. I would love to have a piano at home, teach my kids to play, but
Are you going to do the whole Jen Hazing family Christmas sing-along?
no, but that would be awesome.
Because they do that every year.
I forgot about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, she sent it to us one year. It's impressive. My mom's side is pretty musical, though. Like, my mom comes from a family with 15 siblings.
Wow.
So they are their own, like,
The Mormon Tabernacle Choir is right
pretty
there.
much the Catholic Tabernacle Choir. Is that a thing? But yeah, they all get together and, like, they'll sing and play guitar with all my aunts, and it's kind of wholesome and sweet.
Wholesome. I like that.
Well, to wrap up our show, Kristy, we've always asked our guests to find that thread from their past, their upbringing. It could be a quote, it could be a story, it could be something that you've read. But what is it in your past, in your upbringing, your background that you still carry today in your life, your professional career, your personal life, whatever it is that you want to pass on to our viewers?
I think it kind of dovetails with being in Leadership South Dakota together, Vince and I. So
It's a cult.
yep. We had to have on our graduation like a quote that sort of embodies, something we want to share going forward, something that sticks with us. And I think it's something I've had to learn throughout life is growing up as an achiever, growing up as a perfectionist, that done is better than perfect. And I think that's been something I've had to learn through childhood, through college, through my professional career. I'm still learning it today, is that, don't let perfection get in the way of something great. That sometimes it's better to just do it and give it your best in the moment than to wait for it to be perfect or to be too precious about it. So I would say that. And it's a lesson I still learn every day, having kids especially. Like sometimes just living is doing your best that day. Done is better than perfect. And that's something you can still be really happy with and proud of.
I like that. That's good.
It's pretty awesome. Well, viewers, to learn more about Kristy and her wonderful work, we will put all her links in our show notes below. But until then, continue to be engaged and curious, and we'll see you next time on Nostalgia Street. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. If you're on iTunes, please take a moment and leave us a rating and review.
Head on over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. You'll get access to engaging visuals that complement our podcast content.
Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to having you with us on our next episode. So until next time, listeners, stay curious, stay engaged,
And never stop walking down Nostalgia Street.